Today we're going to talk about California sales tax fraud penalties and criminal sales tax investigation risk in California. So, why do California sales tax audits turn dangerous and hurry in certain situations? Well, most business owners think a California sales tax audit is solely about math. I'm sorry, but it isn't. It's also about any criminal intent in understating your sales tax liability. A routine CDTFA audit can begin with simple questions about taxable sales, resale certificates, or reported gross receipts. But when discrepancies appear between your sales tax reports, bank deposits, inventory purchases, or point of sales data, your audit can shift from substantiation to potential sales tax fraud risk. And once sales tax fraud themes enter your file, the exposure becomes civil and criminal. So how do sales tax fraud allegations usually start? What have we seen over the years? Well, the CDTFA often begins an audit by comparing reported taxable sales, merchant processor data, bank deposits, inventory purchases, point of sale summaries, and Z-tapes. If your reported sales on your sales tax returns don't align with the data those documents suggest, the agency stops asking, can you substantiate your sales tax return? And starts asking, did you intentionally underreport sales tax? Sales tax fraud risk increased dramatically in the following circumstances. The business changes its explanations during the audit. Records are rebuilt after the sales tax audit begins. Point of sale data appears altered. Resale certificates are misused illegally. Or transactions look to be off books. At that point, credibility becomes the central issue in your sales tax audit. Let's talk about sales suppression and record manipulation criminal risk. Listen, nothing escalates faster than sales tax suppression software if it's discovered. If California sees deleted transaction data, dual record systems, shadow sales logs, point of sale system manipulation, any type of phantomware or suppression tools, if they find that, they're going to frame that conduct as intentional. And when that conduct looks intentional, penalties increase at best case, criminal referral at worst case. Your internal communications, any emails about fixing numbers or keeping certain sales off the record, can become exhibits in a subsequent criminal sales tax case. Even if they don't come at you criminally, the civil penalties can stack quickly here. California penalties can include a 10% penalty for negligence or intentional disregard, a 25% penalty for fraud or intent to evade, failure to file penalties, collection-related penalties. And one penalty that surprises many owners: if you collect sales tax but you don't reimburse it, California will impose a 40% penalty on any amounts treated that way, when thresholds are met. Misuse of resale certificates can trigger additional penalties, and in some cases, misdemeanor exposure. What begins as a number issue can quickly become a high-stakes penalty case, even if it doesn't go criminally. So when does criminal exposure definitely enter the picture in California? Well, California law authorizes misdemeanor and felony charges for willful violation of California sales and use tax laws, filing false returns, willful failure to pay sales tax, intent to evade reporting or payment of sales tax. Felony exposure can arise when unreported liability exceeds certain thresholds within a 12-month period. And when prosecutors see payments like repeated suppressions, double sets of books, intentional diversion of collected sales tax, record destruction or alteration, the case immediately stops being administrative and it becomes potentially criminal. There's also federal risk here that most people don't see. Sales tax fraud rarely stays just about sales tax. The same conduct that hides taxable sales for sales tax often hides taxable sales for income tax purposes. Cash skimming, suppression, and off-book sales create federal and California income tax exposure. If wages are paid off books, payroll tax exposure emerges. Parallel civil and criminal risk can develop across state and federal agencies. And that overlap is where cases become extremely dangerous. Communications decide escalation. Escalation is usually triggered by communications, a poorly handled audit interview, a speculative explanation, an email that locks in a damaging criminal tax narrative. Once fraud themes appear in the file, the CDTFA may expand the scope of the audit. Federal or other California tax agencies may become involved. Your writ submissions could become prosecutorial evidence. And privilege matters here. CPAs, EAs, and preparers, especially the original preparer, none of what they did is protected by the attorney-client privilege or the work product privilege. In criminal and state matters, federal practitioner confidentiality protections don't apply. That distinction can decide the outcome of your case from the get-go. So how do we go about stabilizing a sales tax fraud case? If the CDTFA comes in questioning your point of sale integrity, asking for Z-tapes or raw data, asserting fraud-level penalties, probing resale documentation, investigating unremitted but collected sales tax, expanding to multiple other tax years, you need a controlled strategy, centralized communications, and disciplined document production. You need transaction-supported reconciliations, preservation of existing records, not after-the-fact repairs. Once the government believes criminal intent exists, small missteps here can compound quickly. So in closing, if you're facing a California sales tax audit, especially where tax fraud is a possibility, or a criminal sales tax investigation has already begun, this is not the time for casual explanations. At the Tax Law Office of David W. Klasing, our dual licensed tax attorneys and CPAs manage parallel civil and criminal sales tax defense. Call 800-681-1295 or visit klasing-associates.com to request a confidential reduced rate initial consultation today. To date, no client we have ever represented at a sales tax audit in California has been criminally prosecuted for sales tax crimes. Thank you.